Welcome, adventurers! You've made it to the Wind Down, the live stream at the end of the Geekverse. It's a chill place to hang out here as the sun sets on another day. We're here to have a little chat, reflect on the day's successes, and prepare for a better tomorrow. So settle in with your favorite beverage this evening.
May I tempt you with a cup of chamomile?
Why, thank you, Dory. I would love a mug of tea this evening, but perhaps you would rather have some coffee, though I do recommend a decaf this late in the evening. Or perhaps maybe a cold brew is more your style.
Oh, no thank you, Dory. A little red wine. For me, I think.
Sounds like an excellent choice, Gandalf. Whatever you want, it's yours. Could I offer you a bourbon, a martini, an old-fashioned, or something perhaps a little stronger? Ugh. Well, I mean, if that's really your thing, then okay, but I hope we can find something a bit better than that.
Romulan ale. Why, Bones, you know this is illegal.
I only use it for medicinal purposes.
All right, now we're talking. I'm Heath, and I'll be your host. Welcome to my home. Come one, come all, writers, artists, sculptors, storytellers, board gamers, streamers, dungeon masters, fans of sci-fi, fantasy, geeks of all kinds. Whatever your fandom, you have a place here. For soon it will be time for another long rest so that we can recover our hit points, our spells, and our abilities, so we'll be ready to fight on for another day tomorrow. But first, we all need a little time to reflect. Because you've survived another long, perilous day of wilderness treks, dungeoneering, and random encounters. And that's worth celebrating. Let's tell the tale. It's time for the Wind Down. It will improve your life. It really will. Give it a chance. Here we go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome here to the Wind Down. Stray's here. Good evening. Good evening. And so is BGD. Good to see you. Hello. I hope it has been a good day for you. I've got some things to talk about as far as diet and body measurements go. I'm changing up some things over here on this side of things. So we're going to be looking at that over here on my sheet as soon as I find a good pen. But we'll be looking at that. And then we can talk about whatever it is that you want to talk about. You know, Trey recommended an idea about talking about common time sinks and obstacles to getting our big rocks done. And I think that's a good topic to talk about because, once again, I didn't quite get done with all three of my big rocks. Didn't do it again. So, you know, why is that? So, let's start off by breathing and taking a sip of whatever your favorite beverage is. Deep inhale, complete exhale. Makes you feel better. Makes you feel better. It really does. Now take a sip. I hope you had a good day. I hope you had a good day. I was up early this morning. It was a good day. So I'm GD in the chat. Good day. It was a good day. Jay's here also. Hi, howdy. Good to see you, Jay. It was a good day. Your other option is WIT. So you might be GD and WIT. Will improve tomorrow. I came so close to having kind of like the idealized day today, but I didn't quite get done with all of my big rocks. So, you know, that's just the way it is. Yeah, accomplishing all the big rocks can be difficult. So, were you a good day or will you improve tomorrow? If you have questions, I'll be happy to take some questions here this evening. We will also be celebrating victories. Trey says, I got cool dice, and so my day was good. I saw those dice in the on the Discord server. And in fact, what I should do if you're not part of the Discord server already and you have found the stream, let me make sure that you have the invite. So I'll put that in the chat right now. Yeah, Trey got some fantastic new dice. Looks like polyhedral dice that you don't see all that often. I saw like the D100 was in there. I saw like D30, I think, and other things in there. So non-standard polyhedral dice, which, hey, we could be certainly using a lot more of. Oh, Stray says, good day and wit. Eyes are getting better. I'm so glad to hear it. I'm so glad to hear it. I know that will be a major change in your life when that clears up. I can only imagine. The Trey says, missed all of my big rocks, sadly. Uh-oh. Yep, that's not good. I got 2 of mine, and I came close to getting the 3rd, but I didn't quite get finished with it. We can talk about it. Did you have victories to celebrate? If you had victories to celebrate, perhaps victories that nobody else cares about, we can do that. Andrew says, your stream looks great on my laptop. Don't normally watch on this device. Well done. Well, thank you, Andrew. Thank you. I've been working quite a bit over the past 30 days on the lighting for both the morning grind and the evening and the wind down, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. So this is what I've come up with. So I'm glad it's looking good. I've got a different lighting set up for if I start live streaming some video games. I'll change up the colors again. Did you have any random encounters? If you had a random encounter today, put your random encounter down there, and we will talk about what strange thing happened to you today. I'll share how my day went. Let me turn on the auxiliary camera. So here is my log. Now, I weighed in today at 186.6 pounds. So I did go up, from yesterday. I was down real low, and I went up. So I think that's just variation or something like that with hydration and things like that. I want to pay attention to that, especially since I'm trying this new kind of diet kind of thing out. So I weighed at 186.6, but I got to lose that weight. Over here, I was definitely heeding the call to adventure this morning. I was up at like 2:45 this morning and was working at the desk this morning. Got about 3 hours worth of work done, then went back and took a little bit of a nap. We were in the Discord channel. We were talking about biphasic sleep. That's sleeping in 2 different phases. And I was trying to think of somebody who I saw on a blog a long time ago when we were still reading blogs, who was advocating, I think it was kind of a self-help kind of thing. And I think that there were some like mystical elements and things like that. But what I remember of the blog was talking about polyphasic sleep and how you could dramatically reduce the amount of sleep that you needed, assuming that you slept according to very tight schedules. Like first becoming biphasic by putting your sleep into 2 categories. And that seems to be how I naturally go. Naturally, I'm a night owl, but life seems to work better if I get up in the morning. But left to my own devices, if I get into a routine, I do tend to become biphasic. So there is an initial sleep, then there's waking up for a bit of time, and then there's more sleep after that. So I don't know how well that actually works, but I remember that. I'm going to see if I can find that later and talk about it. So I was definitely CTA, so heeded the call to action. Or call to adventure. I was so close to being MBR. MBR is moved big rocks. And I moved 2 big rocks. I got all the bills paid today, and then I emailed everybody about what's going on tomorrow for the Cultist season finale. And then I got all that done, and then I went through and I took a very careful look at every single part for the rabbit action figures that I've got sitting here. So I went through all of these in detail. We did an initial kind of run through of them on unboxing of them, but I went through and I looked at everything in detail, and there is not much to change. There's not much to change. But so I started writing, but there are a few things and a few details to address. So I started writing out that email to the manufacturer, and I didn't quite get done writing out the email. That was taking too long. So I didn't quite get done with that. AF, I'm actually going to stop tracking AF because I'm more concerned with adhering to the diet, which I did. So I adhered to my diet because I'm going to try to lose some weight here. And then watch rings, I hit watch rings. There we go. Verification, hit watch rings. So I was watch rings, and that's like day 36 or something like that I've hit all of my watch ring goals. So that's good, doing the movement. And that's like day 1, 2, day 4, no, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm a 5-day streak on this kind of new diet kind of thing. I did very well in my time tracking. Got core creative time done. I've come up with some great stories for Ravivania. Got some great stories there. Ryan says, howdy. Howdy, howdy. I have got a meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to go over the story for the first Rabavania, whatever it needs to be. Does it need to be a screenplay? Does it need to be a book? I don't know yet. But I have got to, I've got another meeting about that tomorrow. And I think I've finally got something. So got that done. YouTube been Ravenkeep, just general business stuff. That's like 4.5 hours. I cleaned for an hour today, and then I also walked around for another hour. So I hit all of my time there. I'll have another couple of blocks here on YouTube tonight. So that's like an amazing day over here. In fact, what I'm going to get is I'm going to get my blue check mark on all of my time logs. I wish I had hit that email and gotten that email out, but I wasn't able to do it. Trey says, my random encounter was building a chair for my wife for the back porch. Oh, well, that's cool. I like building things. Building a chair for your wife, that's pretty cool. Trey says, on sleep, the big concern is not getting enough REM. Right. I'm going to come up with some information because that seemed to be an interesting point that people were interested in on Discord. I'm going to see if I can find some information on the biphasic and polyphasic sleep. Because, right, there's the idea there was that you're supposed to spend less time actually in bed, but more time in the important high quality sleep. So we'll see what we can do. I don't know. Jay says, the action figures are awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I love indie figures. They have so much unique character and charm. They do. They are not easy to do. You know, there have been a lot more independent board game producers than there have been independent action figure producers. There are some independent action figure lines, but there aren't all that many. And that's because, you know, I've been saying it's been 18 months on these action figures, but it's been longer than that now. Time's getting away. This is December of 2022. So this is more like 19 or 20 months deep into action figures. So it's not an easy thing to do action figures. Trey says the Tales of Rapavania, the animated series. Well, I can only hope, right? If it were going to be something, it would definitely be animated. Right? I'm not sure if I need to write the screenplay first, like a screenplay for a movie. I think what I have right now would not be like a whole like TV series. The story I'm working on right now could either be a book or like a movie or both. But I need to know what I need to work on first. And fortunately, I have somebody who is helping me, who is kind of in the Hollywood side of things. That doesn't mean anything's going where he just has experience there, and so he's been helping me out. And I don't know what to do next. So, but hopefully, I've got a good story here. We will see. We will see. Trying to make things happen. Ryan says, I remember hearing about the polyphasic sleep schedule, sleeping for 2 hours, 3 times in 24 hours. Right. Yes. Right. That's why it's so hard to stick to, supposedly. I've never done it. I've done biphasic because this seems to happen naturally. And I don't think that's too strange. But if you're really getting into the polyphasic, where you're supposed to be sleeping like 5 times a day or something like that, but only for like 20 minutes or something like that, or an hour or something like that. Apparently you have to be real strict with it. And I don't know how well that works. I've never tried it. Maybe I should try it. Because if I could just change you hear about people who only need to sleep like 4 hours a night, but I am sadly not one of those people. Trey says polyphasic sleep schedule sounds like cat naps. Well, it kind of is. It kind of is. Yes. Okay, so now I have become fascinated by this idea of these Instagram women who eat nothing but steak and butter. And I've been hearing. I had a friend who did paleo, the paleo diet, and he was quite an advocate of the paleo diet. And then I hear all about this keto diet, and a friend down the street was on keto, and he and his wife, and I think they had great success with it. And so, I started really researching that and what that is, and why it makes sense, or what it's trying to do. And then I think an extreme version of that is this carnivore, right, where you basically eat nothing but meat and eggs and potentially dairy and things like that. Oh, hi, Positive Fandom. Hello. Wait a minute. because I practice her name when I'm not on stream, and then I can never do it right when I'm here on stream. So here I go. Hang on, just one second. I got to make sure I'm well lubricated here. Positive Fandom is run by I can't roll my R on camera. I can do it when I'm walking around. She runs Positive Fandom. Be sure you check out the Positive Fandom channel. Talking about all kinds of things in modern. I'm wondering if we need to talk about some of those things too. That's pretty good. That was all right. I swear I can get it. I've been thinking about that, like when I'm on like the afternoon adventure or something like that, and I'm going, oh, that's it. Now I'm going to do it on live stream, and I can't get it exactly right. So I'm glad that was acceptable. Ryan, you've done the paleo thing, played that game Paleo. You need the veg. I hate it. I would be a carnivore if I could. Jay says, I've been running on 4 hours a night for 3 months. Thankfully, I don't drink caffeinated drinks, so I don't get highs or lows. Yeah, that's not a lot of sleep for most people. Now, so I realized I had been tracking weight, but I realized I need to track other things about myself because I need some new data points regarding where I am with that. Ryan says, you're talking about, I literally meant the board game. Oh, I didn't know there was the paleo board game. Oh. I realized I need some more data points about myself. So I took some measurements today, and my waist is at 39.5 inches. That's measured across the belly button. So not like at hips, but at waist. My shoulders are 49 inches. My left bicep is 39.25 inches. My right bicep is 13.5 inches. So it makes sense because I'm right-handed that my right side would be a little bit larger than the left side. But you can see the size there. I got Kermit the Frog arm problem. Maybe eventually we can solve that problem. And then, but around the hips, like the hip bones, I'm 37.5 inches. So I realized I need some more data on myself. I used to track this stuff all the time. And I've gotten away from it, but life is better. What is measured gets managed. So I figured that by measuring this, I should be tracking more than just weight. Because actually, at the end of the day, I'm not all that concerned about weight. But I'm more concerned about body shape and composition because I'm all the wrong shape. I'm the wrong shape here. Ryan says that regarding paleo, it's a co-op game about early humans surviving the elements and developing tools. Oh, that's interesting. I have not ever heard of it. Now, I've got Kingdom Death here, which I know is kind of post-apocalyptic, killing animals and things like that. But anyway, I made those measurements so that we can, or I can track where I am with all this kind of stuff. Because I also went and bought a whole bunch of meat at the grocery store today so that I can try that. And we'll see. We will see. I will let you know how this goes. See if I can get something going on here. Because I understand the philosophy. There are all these fad diets and things like that. But who knows? Just seems like something fun to try. Experimentation. You know about the Adonis ratio? I used to want to try to do this. Maybe I should try this again. Jay says, I've done keto before. It's pretty hard depending on how much you commit to it. I only did it for about a month before I mixed it in with other diets. Just so expensive? Up here. Ryan says, KDM is amazing. Oh, yeah, Kingdom Death is amazing. Yeah, would love to own a copy eventually. Just so expensive. Yeah, it is. I got mine at Gen Con, and they gave it to you in like a gigantic Santa Claus bag. Like, I bought 2 of them at the time because David wanted one too. So I was carrying these gigantic boxes. In fact, I'll show you the box. I'm not going to open it up. We'll open it up on a morning grind. But has anybody seen this box? This right here is the Kingdom Death box. I mean, this is a board game right here. So, you know, I have opened it before, but I haven't really gotten into it. But that right there, and this is a heavy box, that is Kingdom Death. We were saying there is a solo version of that. So maybe it's something, I'm thinking about doing the solo dinner and board games. So I might have to get into Kingdom Death solo. Jay says, good Lord. Yeah, it was a massive thing. We had to stand in line to get it at Gen Con one year. There were lots of people lined up for that. Positive Phantom says, wow, that's huge. Yeah, that one, I think that is the largest board game box I've got. Even Twilight Imperium isn't that large. I think Kingdom Death takes a look at that. Looks like nearly 40 pounds. Well, it's probably not as heavy as Frost Haven. It's probably not quite as heavy, but it's close. It's close. Frost Haven at a 40-pound box, that's a heavy thing of board games. And you've got to put all the miniatures together. That's a downside of Kingdom Death. And that's kind of why I did open it up and go, okay. Because the miniatures do come on sprues and have tons of pieces. So you got to assemble those. Yeah, what a beast. It is. It's one of the mega games. Let's see. I wish I knew more about it. And like I said, maybe the solo board gaming on Dinner and a Board Game is going to be a good way to do that. I'm thinking, actually, what I'm thinking about, so tomorrow is the season finale of The Cultists. Don't forget. We're going to watch 3 things tomorrow. The final episode, and then immediately after that, the deleted scenes will premiere, because there are some deleted scenes from some episodes, so we put them together in deleted scenes. I just figured we'd go ahead and watch all of this tomorrow night. So, final episode, deleted scenes, and then bloopers. We put together the bloopers reel, so we'll show the season 2 bloopers reel, and then we'll go live. And I think we'll have a number of people from the cast and crew tomorrow. I think should be. So we will have that right after that, and then of course, I will also be giving away the Call of Cthulhu RPG tomorrow on the live show. So I've got the Cthulhu RPG Investigator's Handbook, Keeper's Rulebook, and the Keeper's Screen. I'll give those away tomorrow night. Everybody seems to like that. We should look at Call of Cthulhu on Morning Grind. I have been through it and I've created characters in it, but I haven't ever gotten to play it, and I really should look at it again. It's one that I've referenced a few times and gone, okay, I see how they're doing things. It does some things that I like, but we should look at Call of Cthulhu on the Morning Grind sometime. So that is next Friday, or excuse me, tomorrow, as in tomorrow. Love that game. I can understand why. I mean, like I said, I've read it before, and it seems cool. And even created characters for it, and I think played just a little bit in order to test some things out. It's been a while. Sweet. Jay says sweet. But then next Friday we'll need a new show, and I'm thinking about piloting a solo Dinner and a Board Game next Friday. I got to get a whole bunch of things together for that. But I'm thinking about, I got this. You probably have seen this. Hero Quest: The Frozen Horror. And I've never played this one. I played all of the other original Hero Quest stuff. But the Frozen Horror wasn't ever released where I was, as far as I know, in the original release, so I never had the Frozen Horror. Well, I got the Frozen Horror right now. And this one has 3 solo quests in it for the Barbarian. And so I'm thinking that, well, I'm going to try to set up everything here in the office here to run a board game. You have to clear off everything off this part of the table and get the Hero Quest board down here. And then I got to look at the app too, and wondering if the app would run me solo as the Barbarian through one of the Barbarian quests. So I'm thinking about that's how to do the next show, not tomorrow, but the Friday after that. Got to get more shows going. Got to get more shows going on here. Trey says Pulp Cthulhu is interesting too. Also Chaosium. Pulp Cthulhu? I don't know that one. But that also means that I've got to paint some of these. That's why I was trying to see if I could put together a painting show, time this Sunday. And I still might be able to do it, but the problem is I got to coordinate people who want to be around for craft time on Sundays. And I haven't done that yet. And you got to get to people early. But if we could start painting on Sundays, I don't want to do a dinner and a board game with unpainted frozen horror miniatures. Has anybody got this box? Did anybody pick up this box? BGD says Call of Cthulhu 7th edition is a superb skill-based system I've played for several years. The books are amazing. The rule set is crunchy in all the right ways with a great character progression system. The character advancement and progression system is one of the things that I remember liking about it when I was reading through it and all of that. So that's interesting that you say that, because that's the kind of thing that I'm interested in, especially a skills-based system, because I played a lot of GURPS. But it seemed like Call of Cthulhu had a better way to try to, for character progression. I like its system. Trey says, we'll add to Discord. Yes, please do. The Pulp Cthulhu. Andrew asks, do you simulcast to Twitch, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter? I go out to Twitch, yes. And at one time, we even had a comment come in from Twitch. But I don't think people regularly watch on Twitch. But I do go out to Twitch. Facebook, I go out to a couple of different Facebook pages and even a Facebook group when we do things with the cultists. So, yep, Facebook, do that as well. Now, Instagram, that one's hard. The software here doesn't natively go out to Instagram, and it's because of apparently something weird about Instagram. And I was like, how do you also broadcast Instagram? And there were like additional steps and things like that you had to do every time. So I was like, okay, not worried about that. So right now it is YouTube, Facebook on different pages, depending on what we're talking about, Twitch and Twitter, which is cool. Like, I wouldn't have figured that I would go out to all of them, but since this software makes it easy, you might as well. BGD says Pulp Cthulhu is a more over-the-top, action-oriented extension to Call of Cthulhu 7th edition. Oh, really? Trey says you would love Pendragon. Now, is that an RPG? Probably talking about that. Hey, yeah. Oh, yeah. So also by Chaosium. Yeah, I probably would like that. I think I've seen that before, but I haven't ever gotten into it. Pendragon would be a great inspiration for Tales of Rabavania. Okay, we need to add that one to the list. Oh, is it? I think it's a book series. Could be. I do like King Arthur, and actually, one of the things I like to do with Arthur is compare different versions of King Arthur and compare and contrast what's going on with them, because I like a variety of different types of King Arthur stories. I like one of my favorites was written by John Steinbeck, The Acts of King Arthur and His Noble Knights. That one is an extremely classic King Arthur story. It was deliberately written so that they're not trying to put him, or Steinbeck was not trying to put him in any historical kind of context. He's a high medieval king of England, and then we just go, right? And he tries to bring in a whole bunch of the classic legends. So Steinbeck's The Acts of King Arthur and His Noble Knights is one of my favorites. But likewise is Mary Stuart's Merlin trilogy, which is very different. But I love Mary Stuart's Merlin trilogy. And there's the final book is about Mordred. There's a fourth book that's about Mordred, which I also really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that fourth book because it makes Mordred kind of like a tragic hero. I really liked that. And then Bernard Cornwell wrote the Warlord trilogy, which does try to put Arthur in a historic context as a Breton warlord in the aftermath of Rome and things like that. And I also really enjoyed those stories. So there are lots of great ways I think that you can do King Arthur. Megan and I want to talk about that at some time. See, we need better ways to do these shows and have these discussions, because we should be able to have that on the Geekverse channel. Megan is also big into Arthurian legend. BGD says, I created a simple cosmic horror genre hack to the ICRPG, which is the index card RPG, Master Edition rules, using trained and expert skills for characters that were strongly inspired by the skill list in Call of Cthulhu. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Everybody's talking about this index card RPG. And I enjoyed what I saw about it. I feel so behind. I feel so behind in everything. I've got so many projects that are not out and have not come to fruition. I got to fix that. Trey says, added the Pendragon RPG link to Discord. Thank you. And BGD says, if I think of it, I will upload the PDF of the hack to your Discord server. Well, please do. Please do. That would be great. Jay says, I still need to read some King Arthur. Well, I recommend those three. Any of those three. Now, they're all very different types of King Arthur, but that's, to me, what makes them interesting. You know, if you're looking for the most classic kinds of King Arthur, then it's Steinbeck's Acts of King Arthur and his Noble Knights. Does anyone else have any other great King Arthur adaptations? And now, the Merlin trilogy, hence it's called the Merlin trilogy, but Mary Stuart's Merlin trilogy, the main character in all of this is Merlin. Everything is told through Merlin's point of view here. The Crystal Caves, the Hollow Hills, and the Last Enchantment. In fact, it's about time, it's actually probably long past time that I reread this. Because, man, I really did like it. Yeah, this is really good. The Mary Stuart trilogy sounds very interesting. It's also very popular in our family. Let's see. I'll tell you what it says inside its front cover. And now, see, this is one of these things that I'm very surprised has not gotten an adaptation in either movies or TV. Very strange to me. So I've never really looked into why. But because this is so good and so popular in the King Arthur kind of genre, and if I were listing, fantasy trilogies and things, the Merlin trilogy would be it, or certainly one of them. So maybe there's some kind of rights issue or something like that, or somebody's turning things in. Now, of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that even far from it. That if we did, a good Merlin trilogy, movie trilogy, or TV show, that it would be any good. There's no guarantee of that. But it at least surprises me that nobody tried. It says, the prophetic voice of Merlin, the mysterious enchanter of Arthurian legend, has completed his story. Written over a period of 10 years, Mary Stuart's 3 best-selling novels now stand alone in one volume, the finest work of her distinguished career. Hers is the most extended portrait in all of literature of this compelling figure of Dark Age myth and history. Merlin, the protector and tutor of Arthur, has usually been portrayed as an old man, but the Crystal Cave begins the trilogy with the story of his perilous childhood as a bastard son of a Welsh king's daughter and the secret discovery of the magical arts that will set him apart from other men. With the birth of Arthur, Merlin's guardianship begins, and the ancient legend continues in the Hollow Hills with the dramatic immediacy that is Mary Stuart's special gift. Arthur grew to young manhood, ignorant of his royal parentage and deep in the dangerous forests of 5th century England and Wales, where no law was stable and fierce battles raged among the brooding mountains. So the book actually starts, the trilogy starts before Arthur's birth. You deal a lot with like Uther and Merlin dealing with King Uther Pendragon and things like that. And then I think, in the second book, you get to the actual Arthur stuff. Mists of Avalon. Yes. I'm glad you said that one. That one is also popular within my family. Megan and Carol are big fans of the Mists of Avalon. That's the one that tells the story through the eyes of the women, right? And I might not have ever read that one. I might have just heard so much about it from everybody else, but I might not have ever read that one. I need to read that one. I need to put that one on the list. Andrew says, I've always liked the Excalibur movie, but I haven't seen it in decades. I've talked about that movie with a lot of different people because that movie, there's some weird things about that movie. Like looking back and watching it now, there's some weird things in that movie. But I think it was ahead of its time. So, I mean, looking back, you go, man, there's some weird things here. But on the other hand, looking back, you go, man, this movie was seriously ahead of its time. It was basically trying to tell in, allowing for the time that it was made, but a hardcore Arthur trilogy, or not Arthur story of legend, going through all of it with Mort to Arthur, based on like Mallory's Mort to Arthur and things like that. And it seems like it's had a lot of impact on people I know, especially people who are a little bit older than I was, because it's kind of a violent movie. So I remember seeing it later on, but especially the people who could watch it when it was had just come out. That because there weren't other movies like that. That was one of the rare gems that was a fantasy movie like that had come out at that time. And so if you were into that kind of genre, it was like, whoa, this is amazing. I have seen so many things. If you watch that movie, if you go over to Adam Savage's channel, which is like Tested, Adam Savage is Tested, he goes and talks to the guy who was the armorer for that movie. And I had known this, but I had never seen this until I was watching that YouTube channel, where basically all of the armor in that movie was made by one guy. He's just like a fanatic at making armor. I mean, he just makes armor. Now there may have been some people working under him in his workshop and stuff like that, but basically all of them, the armor that was forged for that movie came from this one guy or his shop, right? And so Adam Savage goes and talks to that guy, and they make a replica of Lancelot's plate armor. And then Adam Savage wore it around at like Comic-Con or something like that. And I thought it was a fantastic series of YouTube stuff, because you're also talking to this guy who's like this master armorer that has done armor for not only that movie but other movies. And he just works. I think he's in England someplace. May have been the UK more broadly, but I think he was in England. And he's just got this small shop, and man, he goes to town on making armor. He's just incredible. Part of the things that doesn't make a whole lot of sense in that movie is the armor, because even though he did a fantastic job with the armor, it's supposed to be kind of like a Dark Ages Arthur, but they all wear like 16th century plate armor. It's the classic kind of knight in shining armor kind of thing. Oh, the knights need to be wearing full plate. So it is kind of a weird mash. The armor looks incredible, but it's also kind of weird that, okay, you're here in this Dark Age setting and they're all wearing full plate. It's intentionally this fantasy, Arthur. So there's some weird elements to it, but I think there's a lot to be respected about that. Stray says, Mists of Avalon, I think. It's the round table from a woman's point of view. Came out in the 90s, I think. Yeah, it's told, that's what I've always heard, that it's told from the women's point of view, of all the stuff that's going on with that. Positive Fandom says, I'd love to play a game based on Merlin or the lore. There is a social deduction game that I haven't played it, but there is some type of Knights of the Round Table social deduction game where one person's Merlin. I've never played it though. I might actually be short on King Arthur type games. What kind of, so Pendragon. So this RPG, we'll have to look at that one morning. That is set in Arthur's England. But otherwise, I might be short on stuff. There is a GURPS source book that specifically dealt with Camelot, but I never had it. I've got Joan of Arc, but that's not nearly the same thing. I was thinking about historical things. Yeah, I'm kind of short on King Arthur, actually. Keith says, I own the movie, but I haven't watched it yet. I think it's definitely one to watch, especially for the influence that it's had since its debut. It had influence on me Now I remember, like, as I was too young to watch really everything that was in it. That was back when movies were still on TV. So it was on TV or something, and then something would start happening, and my father would start flipping the channels. But from what I remember watching at that time, being really young, it was really influential as far as knights and knighthood goes. Oh, so that movie that I couldn't watch all of at that time. But then also, there was also a musical, which I could watch, which I have not watched since childhood. But there was some type of musical that was King Arthur and, Guinevere and Lancelot. And I also think I watched that, not a lot, but a fair number of times, because that was like the King Arthur that I could watch. And I was confused by it, but it was the King Arthur I could watch at the time. Trey says, wife and I quote Excalibur all the time, especially the Merlin quotes. Yeah, I can believe it. Merlin's got some great lines in there. And you know what? I even think, I did. If we get to do the Cultist Season 3, there are references to the movie Excalibur in the Cultist Season 3 scripts. Oh, Jay, good to see you. Have to head out now, sadly. Good night, all. Good night, Jay. The Nose Play says, one of my favorite fantasy series is the tragically underappreciated Pryden series, most well known for the Disney movie that butchered the stories, The Black Cauldron. Okay, I don't know this one, but I remember that one coming up in some book that we were reading where it talked about the Pryden series, and I didn't know that one. The Nose Plays. The 5-book series is so good and compares very favorable to The Hobbit or The Lion, the Witch, the Wardrobe style books. Interesting. Well, that's really interesting. So that movie or that story became The Black Cauldron. I know I've seen The Black Cauldron, but it has been a long time. I barely remember thinking about it, but I'm pretty sure that I have seen it. Oh, Trey's gonna get out of here. We're not going to go too much longer here. See you later, Trey, and see you in the Discord server. Positive Fandom says, the production value of Excalibur was wonderful. It made me want to buy a sword. Yeah, I can understand that. It was ahead of its time, like I said, in trying to do a very serious look at the Arthurian legend. One of the funny things is that nobody just talks a normal tone of voice for about the first 10 minutes of the movie. They all just yell at each other. And it's got Patrick Stewart in it. Patrick Stewart plays Guinevere's father. Leon de Grance? Who was it? But Patrick Stewart is in it. And then the guy who played Arthur kind of got typecast after that. And he played the king in... there was a short-lived TV show where the guy who played King Arthur played the Lord of a Manor. Covington Cross. Does anybody remember Covington Cross? I went back and I was watching Covington Cross, or trying to watch a little bit of it. I haven't rewatched the whole thing. But I went, oh my God, it's the guy who played Arthur in Excalibur. Stray says, I got voted as Galahad in my yearbook for what it's worth. Really? Well, that's a good one to be voted as. Galahad would be a good one. I was also studying the Tales of Percival pretty recently. Galahad and Percival. There's so much there. Andrew says, in the 80s, it was Excalibur and Roger Corman produced movies if you wanted sword and sorcery. Both are fun, but very different in tone. Yeah, Excalibur. Well, like I said, it seems like that influenced so many people. And the jousting. Now, I look back at the jousting now, and the jousting is kind of weird. They had to use polo ponies for that. One of the problems when you're shooting movies and things like that is that the reality of what's going on, as far as shooting your movie, is not the reality of the world that you're actually trying to show. And so one of the major problems they were having in the movie was shooting the jousting scenes and other scenes of horse-based combat. That the horses, being just, riding horses and other things like that, not really trained for combat, were too scared and wouldn't approach each other. And that looked weird. The knights are supposed to be charging each other and jousting on horseback, but the horses that they were renting or whatever, had available for the show were very skittish and not at all happy about like charging at each other and doing all the stuff that was necessary to be done. So they moved to, they found that there was one thing that they could rent, and that was polo ponies. Polo ponies were used to charging at each other in a kind of violent-like atmosphere. And so the polo ponies were brought in. So that's why the horses look kind of small, because they're not like, the war horse kind of thing. They're smaller because they're actually polo ponies, because they would do the jousting and stuff like that. So, I think about that, the horse can't be skittish about, going into battle. But on the other hand, it can't look too, like it's too normalized either, right? So I'm pretty sure that would, I don't remember where I saw that, but I think it was something on the making of or something like that. I thought that was interesting. To get that show done. Well, this was a fantastic way for this conversation to go. Much better kinds of Geekverse things than are the productivity topics. We'll get to those later. I watched Conan not too long. Well, no, it's been a little while now. But I really think that Conan is underappreciated in our current time. The original Conan movie, I feel like Conan is brought up today often as a joke. That's just how we experience Conan. Oh, Conan, the guy with the big sword and barbarian and whatever. But man, there was nothing wrong with that movie. It shouldn't be relegated to joke status. That one, that also would have been an amazing one to finally get, to experience something in the fantasy genre. I kind of hate that Conan has been brought, kind of relegated to the joke side. I was reading and watching YouTube stuff about people who are actually really trying to bring that franchise back, but there seemed to be a lot of different obstacles and hurdles that we're going through. Because I think it was somebody sent me stuff on here. Listen to this guy who's trying to bring back Conan and has secured the rights and things like that. And it was on YouTube. It's been a long time since I've watched it, but if I'm not wrong, it was Conan that was supposed to be done instead of Rings of Power with Amazon, and by the people who were doing, or who went on to do House of the Dragon. That would have been a thing to see. Conan is fantastic. I enjoyed the new one with Jason Momoa too. Oh, I didn't know that happened. Jason Momoa did Conan? I'm going to have to see that. Conan the Barbarian. Oh, 2011. Oh, so it's been a while. Oh, wow. That was probably before I was paying attention to a whole lot of things. That was when I was not currently in the Geekverse. Narrated by Morgan Freeman. Huh. And it's got Ron Perlman in it? Oh, well, hold on. Let me put this on my watch list. Well, let's do it this way. Watch Jason Momoa, Conan. Positive Fandom says Conan is a guilty pleasure. Arnold had a great personality. I watched Momoa too. Wish they would make more with Momoa. He does seem like he would be the guy to do it today. Wait, what is REH? I loved REH in my youth, but those stories have some unpleasant tones. Always liked Solomon Kane from his canon. The publisher Ablaze is doing some fun adaptations of the stories. I was surprised that Solomon Kane had gone under my radar. I watched the latest Solomon Kane movie, which is a bit older, and I watched it. Well, it's been a little while now, but Robert E. Howard. Yeah, got it. Yep. R.E.H. Robert E. Howard. Yeah, the author of Conan. But I loved that movie. I was like, oh my God, I need to actually go back and read some more stuff about Solomon Kane, because I'm a big fan of that, that imagery, the demonic and the demon hunter and all of that kind of stuff. So as soon as that came on, I was like, whoa, I didn't know that this existed. So I think I had heard the name Solomon Kane, but I think I texted everybody. I was like, oh my God, have you seen this Solomon Kane? So that was something that for some reason had gone under my radar, and I really wish that it hadn't now. So I think I'm a Solomon Kane fan. I'll have to read some books. At least I was from the novel, from the movie. Yeah, Keith says, I recall hearing about the Amazon Conan. There was apparently a lot of, I have no inside information, but it seemed like there was a lot of drama that went around with what Amazon was trying to produce that ended up becoming the Rings of Power. Stray says, S&S stuff, sword and sorcery stuff gets attacked all the time. I love it. Things like Conan or Dark Sun D&D is awesome. I've never played in Dark Sun. I've seen all the art and the imagery and stuff like that that goes along with Dark Sun, but I haven't ever played it. Or there was, let's see, I don't know if I have this book. Lou and I had talked quite a bit about, at one time, about the differences between sword and sorcery and high fantasy and all of that. And he edited a sword and sorcery anthology. Let me see if it's sitting right over here. It was all of like modern sword and sorcery stuff. Oh, I don't see it. I'm not sure where that book would be. If I find it, I will bring it out and let you know what it is. Because he collected a whole bunch of really well-known modern authors to write sword and sorcery stuff, and compiled it into an anthology. And I really enjoyed that, because I was like, I wasn't really familiar with that genre until he gave me this book of the anthology that he compiled, and then I read. I'm pretty sure I read it all. If I didn't read it all, I stopped just short or something like that. But to really get involved in the sword and sorcery genre. Andrew says the Solomon movie didn't get a proper release. Purfoy promoted it at a San Diego Comic-Con, then it disappeared and showed up streaming years later. Well, maybe that's why. I wasn't aware of it, but I was a fan. Always sad when studios sort of abandon movies. Yeah, especially that one. Like, I don't know what was wrong with that one. That one could have been a whole franchise. Solomon Kane needs to do more stuff, as far as I'm concerned. I wanted another movie as soon as that was over. I was like, oh my God, I got to watch another one. Because I thought it was the genre and the imagery and everything, the themes that dealt with that was just completely right down my alley. I don't know what actually put it back on my list, or how it kind of resurfaced. But it did. But I need to read those stories. I need to see if I when do I do that? But I need to be probably listening to some audiobooks while I'm on the afternoon adventure. That's probably what I should be doing, in addition to responding to Discord. All right. Well, I think I have got to finish writing that email about the action figures here. So I think I am going to call it. James Purfoy is a good actor. Maybe him. Maybe it was. Or maybe it was just something that came up on whatever streaming service that I was looking at. I don't remember what I watched it on. It may have been Amazon. Not sure. Brianna and I did something that was really cool. I hadn't done a Netflix watch party yet. And when she and I watched Eyes Wide Shut, she'd never seen Eyes Wide Shut. So we did a study of Eyes Wide Shut. Well, we did a watch party of that. And then we're going to get back together on the analysis of it. But we used this extension to do a Netflix watch party. So we could all make sure that the movie was synced. And then we had the video conference software, so we could also talk to each other and things like that. I'm thinking we should be doing things like that within the Discord server as well. There needs to be like a watch party section, because I've got some movies I got to watch. But if we just set a time and said, hey, here's a link to the watch party in the Discord server. This is what we're watching. Anybody who wants to watch, we just, set up a video call, of course, and watch. But then that way we could all watch it together. And if we have comments or things like that, talk about it. Well, shame on them for doing what they did to Tom on that film. It sounds like that's, I hate that then, because I loved it. I want to see more. Gold Star H says, late to the party, if you're talking the movie Solomon Kane, James Purfoy was in it as the title character. Yeah, we're talking the movie Solomon Kane. We're wishing that it was better. Keith says, watch party would be great. Watch party is a great idea. Okay, well, I think that's something else we need to do. I'm going to, we need to set up a Discord, not tonight, but set up a Discord server link for watch parties. Now, probably also on Christmas, that's what I'm going to do. Last year, I watched a ton of movies on Christmas Day. So, of course, be with family or friends on Christmas Day. But last Christmas, I said, you know what? I'm going to watch a bunch of movies. And so we might do some Christmas watch parties. If you don't have something else going on, maybe you could do Christmas watch parties. I'll see about that. Andrew says, been a long time, but Eyes Wide Shut ranks a little lower on my Kubrick scale, but Kubrick always makes thoughtful films. Yeah, I don't know that I've seen all of the Kubrick films. I have not seen all of the Kubrick films. But Eyes Wide Shut is so interesting because it's tied into all of the conspiracy lore. The conspiracy theory about how he faked the moon landing, right? And then as a payoff for faking the moon landing, he was told that he could make any movie that he wanted to make, just go and do it. And he got, it seems like his directing style changed a whole lot, because I've been listening to people who were talking about how fantastic he was to direct or to work for on 2001. But apparently as it went on, I heard that he's got just takes, hundreds of takes. He made Tom Cruise walk through a door hundreds of times in order to come up with exactly the right take for that film. And then, of course, he died before it was released, and then the studio changed the release. And of course, the conspiracy theory behind it all is that was the movie that went too far, that was exploring too much stuff into the Hollywood occult, or the elite and their involvement in the occult, and so they killed him, and then they revised his movie. So that's what Brianna and I were talking about. That's a fun movie for that reason, and also because it's so highly constructed. Brianna and I have been looking at highly constructed movies where everything is exactly the way it's supposed to. Because sometimes you can read too much into some things, I think, because when you're on the movie set, well, a lot of things are the way they are because they wanted them that way. But on the other hand, sometimes you do hear directors or the producers talking, well, oh yeah, that's really interesting about whatever point this is. There wasn't anything great, there wasn't actually a lot of thought behind that. It just had to be that way because of this and this practicality of production. But Kubrick, engineered absolutely every single part of that movie. Like I said, having Tom Cruise walk through a door hundreds of times. A rear projection is used a lot to put Tom Cruise in exactly the area he's supposed to be walking down the street with. The use of color, the use of Christmas lights. Kubrick had teams of people photographing doors in New York City to make sure just the right door was behind somebody, when they're walking down the street or something like that. So, from the director's perspective, which Brianna is the writer-director type, I'm the writer-producer type. So from the imagery and, from the director's perspective of that movie, probably can't be overanalyzed. Positive Phantom says, oh, wait, I was thinking of Open Your Eyes. My bad. Eyes Wide Shut was good. My favorite Kubrick film was Lolita, and that's one I haven't seen. So Lolita is one I need to see. Andrew says, he seems like an unpleasant guy, but I like his movie. Dr. Strangelove in 2001 are tops. Even something like Barry Lyndon at least looks good. Yeah, I think it was, from at least what little I know, but from watching behind the scenes kinds of stuff, he's always been a director that would not be rushed. People were talking about in 2001 A Space Odyssey that sometimes you would be there in costume, ready to go, sitting on the set. But if Kubrick was on another set and it was something that set was taking too long, or just running over, Well, that was fine. You just sat there during the day, and then the next day you did it all again, and then Kubrick would come in when he was ready. But then also that he was like extremely attentive to the needs of the actors and seeing to their comfort when he was on set and all of that. And then just watching the different behind the scenes, it seems like that changed, and that he got more and more like focused on exactly. I mean, he was always focused on exactly, you know, what he wanted, but becoming more and more myopic, it seemed like, as he went through. Lolita, yeah, I'm gonna have to watch that. That one's on the list. So many things to watch, but yeah, the study of Kubrick stuff, Lolita, and I have not seen Clockwork Orange. It's Lolita and Clockwork Orange that I've got to watch. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. It's been an hour, so I'm going to have to cut out. I'm going to try to do a little bit more on these action figures, but I'm going to leave you with Goodnight Sword, as I always do. So enjoy.
Goodnight
Brianna
Sword.
narrating. Brianna
Written
narrating,
by
and she also did a lot of the
Robinson.
animation for Goodnight
Illustrated
Sword as well.
by Adam
Hopefully we
M.
can do more
Boxford.
stuff like this too.
Narrated
This
by
was our
Brianna
first
De
attempt at
Silva.
animation over here at Raven King.
Part of the
Want to
Tales
do
of
more.
Rabavania.
All right. Wonderful conversations. So great talking to you tonight.
Goodnight Sword. Goodnight Gourd. Goodnight guards who keep us all safe. Goodnight dagger. And the iron hauberk. Goodnight cheese. Goodnight keys. Goodnight elm. And goodnight helm. Goodnight squire. And goodnight liar. Goodnight shield. And good night to the lance only the gallant wield. Good night banner. And good night jewel. Good night gruel. Good night knights. And good night to the old soldier who says time's been cruel. Good night, maiden fair, whose favor I bear. Good night, rabbits everywhere.